Although interrupted by the Second World War, the 1940s was one of the growth periods in Albuquerque, with most of its 35,000 residents living within a mile or two of downtown. Over the next decade, both the city and population would grow significantly from 11 to 48 square miles and a growing population of nearly 100,000 residents. At this time, the economy was still driven by the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railroad as it moved men and material across the country. But the future became uncertain as diesel engines were introduced to replace the steam locomotive, and the need for large rail yards was fading. In 1947, Kirtland Air Force Base was a primary training source for thousands of service people, moving through the base and throughout the decade. With thousands stationed at the base, as well as those who decided to stay in Albuquerque after their discharge, Kirtland became a crucial component for the city's growth and its economy. Alongside the development of Kirtland, the creation of Sandia Base, which would become known as Sandia National Laboratories, proved to be a major employer in the city. Albuquerque at mid-century, because of its proximity to automobile, railroad, and major airline routes, was poised to become one of the major cities in the Sun Belt. The ever-growing demand for new housing that began in the late 1930s continued into the 1940s, despite the effects of World War II with material shortages. In the early 1940s, the success of Parkland Hills spurred several new subdivisions in the area, including Monterey Hills, Knob Heights, Mesa Grande, and at least a half dozen more throughout the Southeast Heights. While developers continued to infill the Southeast Heights, Charles McDuffie moved north of Lomas to begin work on the McDuffie unit near Montclair and Morningside, which advertised its close proximity to schools, the University of New Mexico, golf courses, and the Nob Hill Business Center. In the newly acquired northeastern part of the city, commercial development in the late 1940s resulted in the construction of new businesses outside of the traditional downtown shopping district. The rapid buildup of stores along Central, east of Girard, came from pressure from residents of neighboring subdivisions to have grocery stores, pharmacies, and other retail outlets. There were no new architectural styles introduced to the city in the 1940s. The Mediterranean and territorial styles kept their popularity, while the ranch house continued to evolve. By the late 1940s, the real estate market began expanding, with new developments being planned or undergoing construction in the Heights almost every month, contributing to the most dynamic and historically significant decade in Albuquerque's history.
After the war, everything exploded. People came to live to the city. Between 1950 and 1960, the population grew from approximately 93,000 people to 201,000 people in just 10 years. So that remarkable growth meant not only opportunities for real estate folks, but also it caused an alarming shortage of housing. Some of the early subdivisions in the 50s weren't all that well built. They were just put up fast, maybe with just cinder block type of walls and cardboard sewer systems in their yards. It was a remarkable effort by builders to meet the housing demands.
The 1950s brought excitement to Albuquerque, looking past tragedies and hardships of war, and looking forward to prospects of good-paying jobs and a boom in real estate. Although neighborhood shopping centers were becoming more abundant, downtown's growth remained constant.
People went downtown weekly to do their shopping, to see lawyers, to visit the dentist, to see their doctor, to do banking. It was all done downtown.
While the Sunshine Theater was undergoing a major remodel, American Home Furniture was opening its showroom, Albuquerque National Bank opened its new headquarters across from the Sunshine Theater, and a new Greyhound bus terminal was completed at 2nd and Marquette. The Sims Building, one of the first modernist buildings in Albuquerque, completed construction in 1954 on the former site of the Commercial Club, where the city's more prominent civic and business leaders gathered. At first, residents were generally unhappy with the break in traditional Southwestern styling, but it was eventually accepted. While downtown was growing, activities were slowly moving toward the East Mesa. For example, new hospitals, drive-in movie theaters, churches, and supermarkets began to find their way into the Northeast Heights. Even Sears Roebuck and Company sought temporary relocation to the Heights after a fire destroyed its downtown building. From the development of subdivisions followed new rules and regulations and zoning for subdivision design, including minimum specifications for new streets and residential lots, which were checked for adequate drainage as well as avoidance of arroyo. Clyde Tingley warned the new progressive officials in the city commission that this checkerboard pattern of growth would be costly to the city unless developers were required to share some of the costs of expanding city services. By 1953, the commission voted to have developers cover a portion of the cost to expand water and sewer extensions and service hookups. By 1955, builders were also responsible for the cost of street paving. With 190 miles of new water lines and 157 miles of freshly paved roads, it's no surprise that there was a significant rise in home prices. However, this did not affect home ownership, which increased 6% through the decade. There was an importance to home ownership emphasized by the looming Cold War. The Albuquerque Journal wrote, quote, "As home ownership grows, so is our democracy strengthened. A nation of homeowners won't ever do much flirting with the isms such as communism." Throughout this time, thousands of homes were being built around the city. 500 homes in Snow Heights, 800 homes in Hoffmantown. One of the more significant multi-phase subdivisions, the Princess Jean Park, included over 5,000 new homes. The initial phase of Princess Jean Park offered two basic styles, the Pueblo and the Color Rock. But as the subdivision expanded, Dale Bellama and his designers would look to California for new styles and incorporate them into their offerings. The result was a distinctive yet virtually identical assortment of homes that changed block by block depending on the year built. Albuquerque's taste in home style moved along with the times of the 1950s. The true revival styles of the 1930s, as well as some of the vernacular architectural styles, were losing favor as the ranch house and the modernist contemporary styles came into
The ranch
vogue.
house is also just a form. It's an interior space design where you have compartmentalized units. You have a living room, you have a dining room, you have a kitchen, and that interior design can be decorated on the outside with any kind of style. So you can have a colonial ranch, you can have a Mediterranean ranch, and here in Albuquerque we found some unique styles that were copies of the Spanish Pueblo revival style.
The ranch house remained the popular style, with its own floor plans dividing the interior into functioning spaces. The exteriors boasted a vast array of details, from decorative metal supports for the front porch, brick planters, and large front-facing picture windows. By the mid-1950s, with the advent of the two-car family, larger garages moved to the front of the homes and became a standard feature.
This is the Princess Jean home, and it's actually a ranch house, ranch home. This is what I talked about, a Pueblo ranch. It has a simplified Pueblo idea with rounded corners, stucco finish, short parapet walls, a little portal, but the ranch designs are a large picture window, a single car garage in this case, but look how far forward this garage is. Back in the 20s and teens, this garage would be in the back of the lot. And that's one interesting thing that my late friend David Kammer pointed out. The garages moved forward through time. And in the teens, they'd be separate buildings in the back. In the teens, I owned a house that had a connecting arch from the house to the garage as a symbolic connector to the buildings. And it kept coming forward and forward and forward as the automobile becomes more prominent. Two-car garages, carports, but it's all coming forward. And of course nowadays, it's kind of one of my pet peeves, but the entrance is lost. It's way back here, and there's this huge garage sticking out in the front of the house. and you go, where do I get in? But anyway, this is a typical modestly priced home in Albuquerque in the 50s.
The method of tracking these new listings was all done by hand and originally done by one person. Anne Louise Blotney would gather all the new listings, including photos of the property, and type up a multiple listing book every week for delivery to realtors. In addition, she sent out daily letters with a list of properties that sold and the new listings. With substantial growth in Albuquerque's real estate market, the Albuquerque Board of Realtors grew to 57 members, and sales increased dramatically. The association also became politically active during the 1950s while trying to protect the interests of the public and its own members. They opposed housing legislation which favored cooperative construction without benefiting individual home builders. In 1957, as a result of the increase in real estate activity, the association sought a newer and larger building across from Roosevelt Park at 1203 Cole Avenue. This was the first facility that offered meeting spaces for its members, like the ones we have today.
Čo teledriga teveris, kapitan? Teledriga. Isarova.